Hello everyone, this is RaySpace, back with more on the Stubby Starship proposal that Everyday Astronaut shared on Twitter here in Kerbal Space Program with Realism Overhaul. We have the Stubby Starship on the right side here, that's the one that's going to land on the moon, and then we have the depot/tanker on the left side. I have made some changes to the mod based on what people suggested. AstroDummy said that the prop rings are 1.8288 meters tall. So for the additional prop rings that I have, let me just show you. These are the prop rings. These contain a certain amount of propellant to extend the tank as necessary. And I haven't done 1.8288 meters. I've done 2 of those prop rings for each of these to make it a little bit easier. So they're close to 4 meters, but they're not quite 4 meters anymore. So they're more accurate though. And AstroDummy also said that the bottom lander skirt should be 7.135 meters tall. This is 7.135 meters tall, or thereabouts. So I've added the top portion as sharing this coloration instead of the black area because it's not really necessary for it to be heat treated below that line, above that line. So I just left it like that. And the suggestion was also that this should contain some propellant. Technically, it should only be containing oxygen, but I've got both just to keep it, you know, normal. Anyway, to keep the ratio nice. But we could change that later. I've made other changes, but we'll get to that in a bit because I have to test that. But for now, let me just discuss what we have here as the situation for pushing it over to the moon. So I've locked the fuels over here. And in total, we have close to the 400 tons that Everyday Astronaut was proposing. We also have nearly 100 tons of cargo. It depends on how you calculate the cargo. So we've got 2 tanks of water. Each tank has 45 tons, so that's 90 tons. But this also has food, water, and oxygen for the crew, and that brings us to, I mean, that's at least 10 tons worth. I'm not even counting the cabin as part of the payload. So we're talking about maybe 100 tons of payload, thereabouts. So it's as fully loaded as we could possibly expect it to be. Its fuel is locked. It certainly has the fuel to land. It probably has the fuel to, well, no, it has the fuel to land, but not to capture. So that's important. And then the tanker here has the fuel both to transfer and to, for the most part, do a capture. It would be able to bring this down pretty far if necessary. So we could do that, or we could carry less payload and have this be able to capture. And this is the thing. There are a lot of variables with Everyday Astronaut's proposal that I still need feedback on. So I will continue to change things as people tell me I should. But right now what we have is Everyday Astronaut said 2 vacuum Raptors back here. So we've got 2. You can see the thrust weight ratio and the burn time here, 15 minutes. Now, Everyday Astronaut was probably thinking of a larger version of this because in the tweet, using 2 Raptor vacuums, he said that the 2 Raptors would burn through 1,600 tons of propellant, and that would take 19 minutes, not 15 minutes. But we're not at 1,600 right now. Let's take off the lander for a sec. We're at the normal. This is a normal sized. I think of 50 tons. Oh, did I take off a prop ring? I think I took off a prop ring. It's smaller. Let me see. It should be 50. Oh, maybe it's just the nose. It should be 50 meters long. There we go. Okay, 49.8. 50 meters long. Okay, so okay, 1,600 in total, but not 1,600 tons of propellant. It's 1,500 tons of propellant. So, and the dry mass is 105 tons, as you can see, which these days is pretty optimistic, but it used to be like that was normal. But so we have a burn time now of 18 minutes, so getting close to it, and another segment would get us there. So, strictly speaking, the Everyday Astronaut version would be a little bit less than this. In fact, it would probably be without having this stuff in the skirt. That would be 1,600 or 1,606. And that's the 19 minutes he's talking about. So we should keep it like this potentially. I mean, I'm trying to simulate what Everyday Astronaut said, so there we have it. We have this 114 dry mass, 2 of these, but obviously Super Heavy is not going to be able to boost this very well. And ultimately it's going to have to be refueled anyway. If we have this version and then attach back the lander here, sorry, the nose cones are clipping because they're on the same side. This has 4,303 meters per second. Do we need 4,303 meters per second to push that? It doesn't seem so. By the way, this, with the payload and all of that, is 600 tons. So it's got 400 tons of propellant, 100 tons of cargo, and somehow it's 100 tons. I don't know. I have no idea. It's, but I mean, when you attach this, the whole thing goes up by nearly 600 tons. So maybe I've got too much on there. Anyway, we'll think about that. But the point is that we don't need 4,303. But if we are going to be sending fuel over to the moon to refuel that, it'd be nice to have the extra bit. So do we want to overburden Super Heavy, or do we want to make this back to, okay, nose cone again, back to a nice 50 meter one, 50 meters, come on, there we go, and keep it like that. It's still pretty heavy, but potentially Super Heavy would be recoverable with this, but it really can't do this burn time. 0.33 thrust weight ratio isn't going to work. So we could temporarily underfuel this. Now, Everyday Astronaut said 600 tons of propellant he wanted to underfuel it by. So our first test is actually going to be to figure out how much can we actually put in here, right? How much can we put in? I mean, that side is no big problem. It can get itself to orbit. It'll need to be refueled. And some of the fuel from this could be used to refuel that. If actually, thinking about it, let's see about this. Let's put that back in. Okay, so to refuel this side, we need 265,000 oxygen there, and then there's another 40,000 here. Now, we can't do TLI then. So we would still need more in here after that got refueled before we could do TLI. Because with the amount of fuel that we have in here being fueled by this side, we'd have too little to actually do TLI. So that will have to be topped up separately, or, well, it could get into orbit with some. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to see how much this ends up in orbit with, and then see how much we can put into here while still making orbit with either 2 or 3 Raptor vacuums that happen to gimbal. Hopefully they gimbal. Yeah, so let's go to the VAB and do those 2 separate tests. Well, I forgot that this was carrying 100 tons of payload, though, or nearly 100 tons of payload, so its delta V isn't that great. So now the question is more like, can it actually get to orbit? We'll test that first. Well, I don't see how it's going to work with Pekka's normal scripts because we don't have Starship, per se. Now, if people want me to have the prop rings have more detail and, like, have them be more obviously separated, I can do that. I've left them pretty simple. Now, it's not supposed to have crew, but we're not worried about that at the moment. Okay, so we need to save fuel. I'll just fly it manually, because otherwise I don't know how to tell ascent guidance to save fuel. I'll just do it. SAS on, throttle is up, and ignition, and launch. And off it goes in a hurry. Yeah, Pekka's script would automatically run on the Starship, but we've got a different situation here. Really, personally, I don't need to have 100-ton capacity to the moon, but, you know. That is the design spec, if you will. With such a light load, though, we're probably going to have to reserve more than it normally would, because it's getting further out. If we're going to have it be reusable. That's another if. I don't know what it just did that automatically. Apparently, it didn't like going that far out and decided to turn back with 3 engines. What is it doing? Okay, we're gonna have to make sure it's not doing normal things. It really doesn't want to be expendable. It really doesn't want to be expendable. Okay, super heavy. Yeah, apparently it was running a program. Okay. Okay, let's try this again. But maybe that was the right time, but I feel like we could probably reserve less than that. It was based on vehicle mass, is probably what it was. And because our second stage, our Starship, is not as heavy as the regular one, it reached that mass early to trigger the Super Heavy to do its return thing. I didn't really have the hot stage ring on here. Oh, we don't want that engine active. Shoot. Okay, okay. Well, how much was left in here? That doesn't seem, unless you're going to be landing on a drone ship or something, that's not gotta be enough. So maybe it's doomed. I don't know how cheap they make the things. Maybe with the lunar mission contract it's worth it and everything, but... Now, there was the so-called Starboat idea by Robert Zubrin, but that was going to be much smaller than this. Robert Zubrin, in the comments to Everyday Astronaut, said that it would be a factor of 5 smaller than Starship, which means we're talking about 300 tons, 200 to 300 tons. This weighing in at 600 tons. Obviously, the payload capacity would go down, but you could refuel them faster, and the thing is, if you can refuel it faster, then you are reusing your lunar lander, then you can just take the payload down on a different trip, right? If you got lower structural mass, then if you can refuel it with, let's say, 1 tanker launch, then, and you're just taking maybe 25 tons each time, that could still add up to your 100 tons. You're just taking it on different trips, if people understand. So the whole 100 ton thing is more a requirement for refueling. It's actually for the refuelers. It has really nothing to do with delivering stuff to the surface. If we have to take more trips to deliver stuff to the surface, that's fine, as long as it doesn't go below a certain amount. We need a certain amount of volume available, and so the lander can't be too small, but you can just have more drops to the ground. And of course, the best scenario is if you can just refuel it on the surface, which would be better with hydrogen and oxygen than with methane and oxygen. That would be the best idea. Now, I wasn't flying this particularly great, but we have gotten to orbit and we have a little bit left, but it's clear that we're not going to have too much left, and given what we saw was left over in Super Heavy and the fact that this was only barely getting up here, we would have a bit of a problem trying to get Super Heavy back with this. So there's no way to reserve enough in Super Heavy to let it survive unless we had a drone ship that could catch Super Heavy. I'm going to revert this, and we are going to see about, I mean, we see very clearly that this, with 2 engines, we can get 600 tons. Every astronaut is completely correct about that. We're not getting too much extra up here like that. So if we're going to get, the tanker will probably be able to carry 100 tons left as payload, because we're carrying 100 tons of payload here. So it could do the 100 tons of refueling each time. Well, the regular Starship would be able to do potentially 100 tons of refueling each time. The tanker doesn't have the tiles. But the tiles have more mass, but hopefully not too much. Tiles are actually remarkably light. But let's see what we can do with 3 Raptor vacuums then. Since we've tested 2 Raptor vacuums and verified this situation, maybe we would be better off with 3. I don't know if that would let Super Heavy be reusable, but we'll see. If Super Heavy is not going to be reusable, this could, and we were going to expend it, then this could have probably gotten up here with a little bit more methane and oxygen. So either we're going like Super Heavy should drone ship itself, which would be hard without proper landing legs, or yeah, Super Heavy is going to be expended. So this is the 1600 tons propellant version, though we will omit the fuel in this area here to get it more correct. So 120 tons of dry mass, 1,600 tons of propellant, but we're not going to be able to send all that up because otherwise we have too long burn time and too low a thrust to weight ratio. So this time we're going to try with 3. So having 3 Raptor vacuums is a deviation from the original Everyday Astronaut plan. However, Everyday Astronaut did mention using 3 engines potentially in one of the comments. So in a reply to somebody else. I think we can run with this with 3 engines. 6 minutes is not too bad. So we have 740 tons of propellant. 740 tons of propellant instead of 600. We could probably push that a little bit more. Let's see. 0.75. 7 minutes doesn't seem too bad. Let's see if Ascent Guidance can manage this. If we're going to expend Starship. I mean, he said, Everyday Astronaut said expending Starship. So if we're gonna, let's see how much we can get to orbit expending Starship. So there is a potential other test without expending Super Heavy, but we'll go with the expending version first. And since we can go with the expending version, I can let MechJeb Ascent Guidance do it. Okay. Go ahead. Target is unreachable even with infinite ISP. I don't think it's going to do this right. No. Fine. What if I put these in the same stage? Okay, now it's happy. I just wanted all the engines in the same stage. Okay. Has to be complicated about things. Here we go. Okay, well, we got to really high G-forces there. Should have told it to throttle down, but I didn't. Well, here are our 3 Raptor vacuums. So obviously, currently, Starship can't do 100 tons to orbit, but I don't particularly need a Starship that can't. So, I mean, I'm not going to be doing 17 or 40 trips to refuel a Starship. We are going to assume that it can at least do 100 tons to orbit. So if they say, oh, version 2 can only do 35, well then scrap version 2. I mean, what can we say? As I said in the comments in reply to one of the comments, we don't need a rocket that is 5,000 tons on the pad that can only get 35 tons to orbit. We just don't. I mean, you can get a big chunk of Falcon Heavy back, and Falcon Heavy can launch that payload. So it's not having to pitch up a whole lot right now. It's not a bad burn to orbit. We could probably push it a little bit harder. That is, fuel it up more. Now, I'll be honest, I mean, I've already mentioned the fact that we can refuel hydrolocks on the surface. So, obviously, I like Blue Moon better. I think Blue Moon is the more useful lander. It's more easily refueled on the surface, it's more efficient overall, and it's reusable. So, its cargo capacity is not bad. It's not this huge, but it's not bad. Okay, well, we don't need to keep firing the RCS. Alright, so we've made orbit, and we have 3,000... Well, the delta V doesn't matter. The point is that the dry mass of this was about 108 tons. Or was it 100... Well, what is it? Well, it says 106 now. We might be a little bit on the light side, but it is just a big tank, so it depends on how they can make it. There's no tiles, there's no fins or all that stuff. So with 106, that means we've got 185 tons in orbit. So that is what this can get into orbit on its own, and then we'll have to have it be refueled, of course, for it to push the lander. How much can the version of Starship with the tiles and wings carry up? We're hoping for 100 tons. So if we're topping this off, it's 185 tons, call it 200, and we were going for 1,600 tons total. So we're talking about, with something that can refuel 100 tons, we would be going for 14 refuelings, which is painful. I guess I'll do it during a live stream while knitting or something, but I don't actually knit. I can sew, but I can't knit. But yeah, it's gonna be tedious is my point. But maybe we'll have to try it out, but maybe it won't take 14. We'll have to see what we can do. It's about time I got a Raptor 3 around here. It's about time they got a Raptor 3 over there too. So maybe we'll have to do it all with something a little bit more advanced to make sure that we're not making the most tedious sort of situation. I don't know. We will see. So this is how it is. This is the tanker. I really should remove the windows and door for the lift. Oh, speaking of the lift, let me show you the other changes that I've made. Okay, so it's a minor thing, but I've put this ladder here, and these are the payload tanks. I've allowed for the Kerbals to EVA. I really should put a hatch there. I'll do that next. Funny that it's a little bit off to the side. But the Kerbals can now get out into the cargo bay. In theory, go on to this thing, and the flaps on this can now sort of close around them. So if I switch back to this, the problem is it doesn't really bring the Kerbal along. So what we see is as I move this deploy limit, it closes those. You can see it closes those flaps. But as it moves out, we sort of lose the Kerbal. Oh yeah, no, come on. Maybe if it goes really, really slowly. But I can only do this one at a time, and that's not good enough. Maybe if I can switch to the Kerbal, have the Kerbal walk forward. No, this way. Okay. The Kerbal is already here. The Kerbal can't slip, right? Okay, well now the Kerbal's on the edge. Come on, come on, come on. Or Jeb, I should say Jeb. It's Jeb. Okay. We have to be careful not to... Oh, the Kerbal fell. Of course, this would be horrible for payloads. Not treating Jeb very well. But so you'll have to get the payload to sort of move forward first. It doesn't move along with it. But yeah, and because this is shorter than the whole animation, the front flap currently doesn't open up, so the Kerbal's gonna have to hop or clamber over it. And yes, there is actually a floor here, if you haven't seen this pad before. Up, up. And apparently the collider here is higher than it visually is, so that's great. Okay. Just by that much. Alright, so I've updated a few things with the mod, including the dimensions of the skirt and the prop rings. I'll put the updated version in the video description. If you are getting the zip file from the old video, after I posted this video, you'll probably already have the changes, because I'll update the link on that video as well. So these things will be updated so the Kerbals can actually get out, and yeah, there we have it. So work continues. With that, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do press like. If you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time.